everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Roundtable Talk, sponsored by Because You Matter. We want to give honor to our Apostle Robert Parker, our Pastor Celeste Parker, and I would like for y'all to help me wish our apostle a happy birthday. He celebrated his birthday yesterday. We just want to say happy birthday to you again. You're such an awesome leader. We thank you. Tonight I have with me Sister... I said sister, and you know I wanted to say Dr. Goodman, because that's what it was. That's what messed me up, because I'm used to saying a Dr. Goodman or sis. And we have Sister Naja. She's moving up in the world. But I just thank you for both joining me tonight.
You're welcome.
Tonight's conversation is, the topic is confronting me, but it goes into avoiding me. Now last week we got into hurting me. We're not talking about someone else hurting you. We're not talking about someone else avoiding you. We're talking about us avoiding ourselves.
Yeah.
I looked up the word avoid, and it says keep away from, or to stop oneself from doing something. Now, it didn't say someone else stopping you from doing something. It said you, oneself. That means you. Because a lot of times we stop ourselves and we avoid things, and it stops us from moving forward.
Right.
We avoid everything that has happened in our lives because we don't want to face it.
Right.
For whatever reason. We don't want to look at it.
Yeah.
We want to forget it. We want to put it in the back of our minds. We want it to be over. But the moment you stop thinking, it comes, it resurfaces.
Right.
And then you try to avoid it again. But it keeps coming back. You keep trying to avoid it. Now you're frustrated.
Right.
You ain't frustrated at nobody else. You're frustrated at yourself because you're avoiding the problem. And the problem is whatever happened before that you avoided then, that you didn't confront then, it's still coming to surface.
Right.
So what did you, when you heard the topic, what came to mind?
For me, the first thing that came to mind was I'm in a season right now where I'm really dealing with myself. You know, we go to church and we're spiritual and we do all these great things, but it's like, who are you when you get home? What are you when you're home? Are you the same person? Are you different? With someone being able to vouch for who you are and what you act like when you're not in the house of God? And so with me, there's a lot of things I do that I'm not proud of. And I've avoided them. I think I've not even realized that I had an issue because we get so used to just being a certain way. You just think, oh, well, this is normal. This is just what I do. But over time, God is like, no, this is an issue. You got to deal with this. So I have really bad anger issues. Well, I'm not going to say really bad because it's gotten better. But when I'm stressed or overwhelmed, I just be, I know, no one would expect it. I know. I can't, and I don't.
Okay, let me avoid that.
It's really only when I'm home. And it's with my loved ones, and it shouldn't be that way. But that's the way it is. When I'm home, I'm stressed out, I'm overwhelmed. Everything they do makes me mad. I don't care what it is. Now I'm yelling and snapping on everybody in the house. And after I've done it, I'm like, why you do that? That wasn't nice. That wasn't okay. But then I have a hard time apologizing because I don't want to admit that I was wrong. So
you avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. I avoid it. So I finally signed up for therapy, which is something I want to do for a long time. But I think this week was my third time going, and it's been really good. Just talking with somebody and really talking about these issues and getting to the root of the problem. Like, well, why do I do this? Because I don't have an answer. When I sit down to think about it, I don't have an answer. So for me, it's just like really personal. Like, when do we really be adults and we sit down and we deal with our issues? Because I also don't want to pass these things to my children. I don't want them to deal with the things I'm dealing with because a lot of these things I deal with, I realize my mother and grandmother dealt with these things. You know what? This is just a cycle here. I have to break this. So it's not fun and it's not easy.
It's a generational.
But it's necessary for us to really sit down in the mirror and look at ourselves and really deal with our issues because I mean, like you said, they're not gonna disappear. They're not gonna go anywhere. As soon as you're done drinking liquor or smoking weed or whatever, the problem is going to be sitting right there. So we really have to stop avoiding ourselves and avoiding our issues and deal with them. And I mean, it's okay to admit that you got issues. We all got issues. My therapist was telling me she didn't need a therapist. we all have issues, and it's okay. It's fine. But
it's funny you said that because therapist. I worked with therapists, and she said not here in New Jersey, but where she got her license from, the therapists have to have a therapist, or they can't work. They have to have a therapist because of everything that they go through. Right. They have to have a therapist. Yeah. I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you.
Sister, then you touched on it, adulting. when it's really time for adulting. So when I first seen the topic, and I was like, avoiding me, I was like, oh, I'm good. I don't avoid myself. Like, I just love spending time with myself. Like, I just love it, going out to eat, go be at home. But then when I really sat down and I like thought about it in therapy, talking about the topic, I dissected the whole topic and was like, oh, so yeah, you do avoid you. I love being home alone. Love being home. But that adulting part, when you know there's something there that's just making you feel uncomfortable, you can just feel it. And so that's when you start doing things around the house to avoid yourself. So that's when I start doing things around the house to avoid me and whatever it is, or the feeling that I know is sitting there. I just don't. So that's when you come cleaning the house, with some extra energy, right? So, finding laundry, like just finding things to keep yourself busy to avoid whatever it is that you know is sitting there that needs to be looked at. And with seeing that and noticing that through that conversation, I was like, so wait a minute. I'm basically giving myself therapy at the time, and my therapist was just like listening to everything and just taking it all in. And he was like, wow. Because I'm like, wait a minute. I'm avoiding me. I'm home alone, love it, and think I'm really doing something, like loving it, just love spending time with me. But am I really spending time with me? Or am I just home alone? And so avoiding the adulting, it took me to a deeper level. It's like, well, wait a minute. I'm really avoiding me in my relationship with God. Because not being able to just say, stop, let's deal with this. That's gonna get that relationship that I've been, want that closer connection and that relationship with God, and taking me to the Word. Because I'm quick to say, when do I have time to really get into my studies? When do I have time to read? I have this, I have that. But you're home alone, avoiding what you have to deal with. I feel it, and I know it's going to be overwhelming, but Nicole, that's the link. That's the link to that deeper relationship that you've been seeking, as well as your armor. And so I thank y'all for inviting me on this topic, because I need to start adulting and stop avoiding, so it won't turn into resenting.
Because that's what happens when you start to avoid things. And before we go on, invite somebody to the live, get into the live, tag someone. This is a topic for everybody. This is a topic for everybody. I don't care where you stand at in church, where you stand at work. This is a topic for everybody. Because even as a teenager, or becoming a teenager, or becoming a young adult, or going to college, or getting into a new job, we avoid ourselves and the things that have prevented us from moving forward. When I heard the topic, even last week when I got the hurting me, because see, when you hurt yourself, you avoid yourself, because that's part of it. You know what I'm saying? Because you start to hurt yourself by allowing things to go on and keep lingering on in your life, and keep lingering on, holding things over your own head. See, people don't gotta hold nothing over your head, because you do a good job by yourself. You'll hold that thing over your head forever and ever and ever and ever. I don't care where you stand at in church, what where you're at in ministry, it's still, you still hang it over your head, and you hurt yourself by doing that, and then you start to avoid it because you don't want to face it anymore.
Right.
And so when I heard that the avoiding me, I said, ain't that a topic? Isn't that a topic for me? Because people don't realize you smiling, you're happy, you're embracing other people, you're loving on other people, you giving to other people, but you're avoiding that very thing that is missing inside you. And I avoid me giving to other people, me doing for other people, me smiling at other people, me being helpful to other people, me loving on other people. I'm avoiding the issues of not being loved. I'm avoiding the issues of still having parts of me in my mind that I'm still depressed. I avoid what I heard and what it did to me about what other people said about me, because people don't understand when people start speaking things about you and they think you don't hear it, but you've heard it, it starts to hurt. So I hurt myself by not confronting the issue. So now I avoid the issue. I avoid the issue by covering it up. You know what I'm saying? You get under the covers. Get in the bed, get under the covers, cover your head up. You hide it from the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And the only way the boogeyman exists is the boogeyman is in your head, because there's no such thing as the boogeyman. So now you're avoiding it. So I avoided the boogeyman. I avoided those things, the depression. I avoided the things that caused me to be depressed. I avoided the topics. I avoided the things that people do to me that I allow. See, that ain't got, see, what they do, that's what they do. But the moment you allow it to affect you, that's not on them no more. That's on you.
You said something. I was writing while you were speaking. I was like, avoiding me by showing up for others.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, by showing up for others, even at times when you don't want to.
Yeah.
But you still do it. And see, and I'm a big person on that. I gave my word. I said I would. So even if something comes up and I'm just like, I will still avoid what I'm dealing with in the moment, just to follow it through. And then when it's not appreciated, that's a whole nother thing.
Then you add on to it.
Because now I'm avoiding really getting with you, because not wanting to give that energy. Sister Evangelist Stacy, you mentioned something. You mentioned avoiding you by not confronting something, or confronting when things have been said or spoken, and it has surfaced back to you. Then there's times I remember Apostle saying that when you know, I'm gonna use his last teaching, no contest. But I remember him also saying you can't give energy to things because it will distract you. So when you want to address it, but you know it's a distraction, you have to go through that type of avoidance, because now you have to hold it in and work through it within yourself to know it's okay that you're avoiding addressing it, because
and that's what I mean. You don't want to address it to yourself. You want to act like it never was said.
Right.
But the moment you start acting like it wasn't said, now you're avoiding you. You're not avoiding. You already heard what they said. That wasn't avoided, because you heard it already. You heard it. It hit the table. You wanted to deal with it. Your actions and your mind dealt with it. But then the moment you put it on the back burner, and said, and don't address it to yourself and say, listen, that ain't me. That ain't how I handled it. I know the truth about it. Because a lot of times, what happens is we start to take fault in what someone else did. We start to take fault in what someone else spoke. So now it causes them no problems.
Right.
It causes you the problem.
Right.
It causes us the problem because they let it go because they already done spoke it.
Right.
But what you do, you harbor it.
Mhm.
You hold on to it. You avoid letting it go. That's another part of avoiding yourself, letting things go. Because the moment you don't let things go, you're avoiding being healed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're avoiding yourself.
Stay stuck.
You're stuck. You avoid everything that God is trying to pull you away from because you're holding on to it instead of letting it go. How many times you done been to this altar? Supposedly we let things go. Supposedly we're here to let them go.
Right.
Confronting us. You understand?
Yeah.
That's what we here at the altar for, right? But we go home and 2 days later it's back at our doorstep. And what do?
Run to the altar.
We run back there the next Sunday if we smart.
But we entertain it sometimes.
We're entertaining and we'll avoid it
Mhm.
for the time being by taking on something else.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not totally healing from it, just taking on something else.
Mhm.
Just to avoid, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. We avoid it the whole time. We avoid us more than we avoid people.
That's just facts.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so true.
We
So true.
we avoid us, the person that we are, just not to avoid other people. And that's where it started at. Goodbye. Having the gift of goodbyes to issues, problems, people, places, and things
Mhm.
will stop us from avoiding who we are. It'll stop us from avoiding me, this person that I am, the person that God intended me to be. Because the moment the reason why we keep doing and the cycle over and over and over again, we don't confront ourselves because we're holding on to people, places, and things. And it didn't happen yesterday. It didn't happen last week. It happened when we was 10. It happened when we were 8. It happened when we were 5. Cause you'll be surprised. Cause I'm a living witness. Kiki, I think she remember everything from birth. I think she was in the womb and she remembered things that happened that I don't even remember. But it's a memory bank thing,
Yeah.
and you keep it. So what happens is you running around here with a whole attitude, angry,
Mhm.
face all scrunched up. Why? Because you're avoiding something that happened in your life that you seen in your mother, you seen it in your father, you seen it in your sister, you seen it in your brother, and you like, that ain't me. Nah, that ain't me. This is what you do. This is no, it's not me. Cause she's so happy all the time, and they just she down here dancing, hitting the floor and everything. But then she tells us she angry at home.
Listen.
Show me. I want to see some evidence. I want to see. I'll take it.
Receipts.
See, give me some receipts.
It's crazy because again, I don't. If I'm being honest, growing up, so I grew up with my stepdad, but I thought he was my biological father. So we were always told that he was definitely angry. He was abusive and all that. Not to us, but to our mom. But he was always mean. He was always angry. Sometimes, what me and my brothers did, we told ourselves, okay, our dad is angry. He's bipolar. I have that too.
Yep.
So I literally placed that on myself as a child.
Mm-hmm.
And then growing up, it was just something. Then I kind of repeated a lot like him. Like, I was physically abusive, not nothing. Like, I wasn't black, no eyes or nothing. But if I would get mad, I would get aggressive. And that would just be my answer to everything, like violence. Are you making me mad? I'm throwing something at you. I'm grabbing you, or and it wasn't
Don't
with people.
grab nobody.
It's only with people closest to me. So really, just my husband.
Don't you ever grab me.
But it was just always aggression. Would just get into aggression.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I didn't really see a problem. I'm just like, nah, just don't make me mad. Like, that's just what it is.
Right.
It's kind of why I felt originally. After a while, I was like,
Let me make you know.
you acting like you're bad. You can't. You can't.
Don't make me mad. She was like, you okay as long as you don't make me mad. Make me lay hands on you.
It's definitely gotten better. God has done it, but I can say now. You know how when you first get in Christ, you have issues, but after a while, you kind of can control it.
Mhm.
And then you actually, at that point, you have a choice whether you choose to give it or not.
Mhm.
I kind of control it a little bit more. I'll feel God saying, stop, daughter, stop. Like, you getting upset, stop. Because if you keep going, you're going to do or say something you regret.
Isn't
that amazing?
Yes, but isn't it hard to confront who you are?
It's very hard. It's
Especially when you come on this side.
Exactly.
It's hard to confront who you really are at home, or when you're not in the. And people don't realize you're in the presence of God all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The presence of God is always. You don't got to be here to be in the presence of God.
Exactly.
He's there. He even at home with you when you over there folding that laundry, knowing that you're supposed to be doing something else.
Mm-hmm. And listen, and I feel it. I do feel it. Like it's solidly. I just feel like, forgive me, God. Like forgive me, Lord. But I just can't do it today. We can't. Not today. But just knowing that and being taught that here under the one and only apostle, that you're always in the presence of God. That's what helps me stay in my walk.
Yeah.
That's what helps me avoid me with not feeding into, because the flesh wants to feed into it.
Of course.
Okay, it's my spiritual life that says, and hearing God's voice like that is just like when you say, oh, I hear him saying, no, not now, daughter, constantly, because he knows I'm ready for certain things, and I can just hear him saying, I need you to be patient, daughter, not now, daughter. And so in those moments to where the flesh wants to not avoid and just stand in the present, I can hear him saying, I got it, daughter. I got it. And I'm able to be like,
But what has, because the definition says stops oneself from doing something. What has avoiding you stopped you from doing?
Loving my family the way that I should. Because what I do is I get angry and then I start thinking about everything they ever did wrong. Now I done put myself in the bad place. Now I'm mad. I'm real mad. Don't say nothing to me. Don't talk to me. And it's like, now I can't love and embrace them like I'm supposed to be loving and embracing them. Because I mean, like y'all said, y'all see me, y'all go, she's the happiest, loving, and embracing. Let them tell you something about one of my bad days. They be like, she's what? She's what? It's just,
no.
you would never, you would never imagine it. It's like I said, it's gotten better, but it took me a minute to even realize that's what was happening, because I'm like, what is my problem? Like, why am I doing this? But it took me a while to really try to kind of make sense of it, and I still really don't even understand all the time where it's coming from. Sometimes it just happens. Like, and it can be the littlest thing, and I'm just snapping. I'm like, yo, what that was about? I don't even know. Like, honestly, I don't. But the anger, the issue, it stops me from loving them the way that I should.
Ask again.
So the definition says stops oneself from doing something. What has avoiding you stopped you from doing? What is it made a stop sign in your life? Where?
Relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I think about? It just came to me. God's so wonderful. When I was heavier, right? And it still lingers now, but when I was heavier, there was no full body mirrors in my home. Face mirrors, yes. Only time I looked in the mirror is to do makeup. Other than that, I avoided the mirrors. I avoided the mirrors because of shame. I avoided the mirrors because of I didn't like what I looked like. I avoided the mirrors because everything somebody had said about me came to my memory, to my thoughts. So I avoided the mirrors. I didn't want no mirrors there. There's one in my living room now. But even when you have weight loss surgery, you have that syndrome where you still see who you were before. But those days, I avoid the mirror. But that me avoiding the mirror comes from what someone else said to me,
Mhm.
what somebody else planted in me. So it stops me from being the best that I can be. Because I'm avoiding who's in the mirror.
Mhm.
The person in the mirror is me.
Yeah.
So I'm avoiding that person. I'm avoiding looking at that person and seeing the creation that God made.
Mhm.
Not man. Man didn't make me. God made me, but I avoid it because of what someone else said.
Right.
We have a question from
Yes,
a viewer. How do roots play a role in avoiding ourselves?
I knew it. Roots, because when you plant something, and it has a root to it. Anything you plant has a root to it. So when your mother or their grandmother or their grandfather planted a root of disposition, hatred, depression, oppression, that root grows. And what people don't realize is, I don't care how far back that root go, if that root was not cut off, if that root was not pulled apart, that root's still in you. That root's still growing in you.
Yeah.
Listen, I've seen the roots from my mother and her mother and the mother before her.
Mhm.
Because if you start looking back and you think back,
What was independence for me? That's the root. That's the
Mhm.
deep root.
yeah, and people don't understand.
No.
It's okay to be independent, but you got to be mindful.
But if you're a hyper, super independent,
Mhm.
yeah. So, and it's amazing because that's the deepest root of
Mhm.
independence. You know, all told that make sure you have your own. You don't need a man.
Yep.
Make sure you have.
Yep.
And I remember my mom before she passed. She was like, if I would have known that you was going to take that and the way you took it, I would have taught it to you differently.
Mhm.
And so I'm still working on
Cutting that root.
cutting that root.
Mhm.
That goes deeper than that 20 feet.
Exactly.
I think I'm probably about at 10 now. But just learning how to cut that root of independence and know that when when God blesses
Mhm.
and Apostle approves of that relationship,
Yeah.
I have to be mindful of that independence.
Mhm.
Because I'm quick to be like, I don't need you.
Because, and that root don't just come. That root is if it's 100 women, 99 of us got that root planted in us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And my root don't come from my grandmother's side, because my grandma was that wife, that mother, all of that. It comes from the other side.
Okay.
It's so deep to where now you can't even get online or anything. There's some woman talking about, you don't need no man. You don't need this. So what's happening now is you don't even have to acknowledge that the root is there. They're gonna acknowledge it for you. Your grandkids and your children, they're gonna see it. Your daughters, the daughters that come behind us, they're gonna see it. And look at the roots; they're just growing. And we ain't doing nothing but fertilizing. Now look at an Asia. An Asia roots don't come from a family root. That root was planted in you by someone who's not biologically the planter. That root came from someone who wanted to put a seed in you, and it wasn't a good seed. So he planted that seed in her. And what people don't understand is it doesn't have to come from the person that birthed you.
Yeah.
Right.
That seed was planted in her from someone who she loved, who was there to nurture her, but he was nurturing her the wrong way. He planted a seed. Now she got to be mindful not to plant that seed to her children. Because look at Lamar. Lamar's strong.
Listen, you don't have to tell me. I know.
I had to tell him, don't pull this wig. I just put it on. But that's a seed that was planted from someone that you lived with. You understand?
Yeah.
All flowers don't come from the same bud,
Nope.
but they be planted in the same planter.
Mm-hmm.
My grandma had all kind of flowers in a planter, but they're all them seeds and all them roots down there together, and they're growing together. Pastor, what do you want?
We have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's an opinion-based question from a viewer. They want to know if you guys think rejection is a part of avoiding ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Huh.
Yes. That's probably one of the main reasons
Yeah.
people avoid.
Definitely.
That's rejection. The fear of
It starts.
rejection
They start
will
there.
have you avoid asking. Will have you
Yeah.
avoid putting yourself in a position. Will have you avoid being rejected.
Exactly.
And so.
And a
most
rejection is okay. It's okay for someone to tell me no,
Right.
but you get so scared.
Mm-hmm.
the root.
The root.
Mm-hmm.
They planted the root already.
Mm-hmm.
If they reject you, you're no good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many of us done been told that if a job rejects you, you ain't qualified?
Right.
No, this job just not for you.
Right.
Right. But oftentimes people will avoid applying. for
Yeah.
positions.
Oh, I do it all the time.
So do I.
I do it all the time. Cause I don't want to confront me and be in there saying, "Oh, you don't want me?" Oh.
And that's crazy because I do the same thing. I look at a job description, it could be one little sentence. I'm like, oh, nope, never did that before. And I just start searching again. I will not apply for it because of that fear of rejection and just avoiding having to deal with that.
Rejection is
It's
that's a root that was planted so deep down inside of us that it comes from before our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers and great great grandmothers. It goes that far back because
they didn't know.
they didn't know.
Right.
They didn't know. But then we get over here. We get over here on this side. And God has injected to us how wonderful, how beautiful,
Yeah.
how marvelous we are, right? We're reminded every Sunday.
Right.
Yes.
Even if we're on the floor looking crazy and ugly.
Yes.
We're the ugliest cry in the world. But God is there to remind us how beautiful we are. But we'll get up and allow one person to reject us.
Yeah.
And then we start avoiding us. Then we start avoiding who we are.
Yeah.
We start avoiding the me in me, the person in me.
Yeah.
We avoid it because of one person. Opinions.
And you know what? We struggle with that, right? And so I'm gonna speak for myself. But I tell students, I tell my son, it's just not for you.
Mhm.
It's not your loss, it's their loss.
That's
But-
because you're avoiding you. That's why you can tell somebody else
exactly.
that, but you're avoiding
You know,
yourself.
in hopes that we can help the younger generation
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
start breaking that cycle.
Mhm. But the cycle has to start with us.
Yeah.
The moment we can sit in the mirror and say, Stacy, it's okay. Stacy, that don't belong to you. Stacy, that don't belong to you. Stacy, stop. The moment we stop avoiding me, it'll stop in them. It'll stop in that person. It'll stop in that person. But we don't see it that way because it's a rooted thing. It's been in us so long. What are you talking about? I don't avoid me,
Right.
but I'm avoiding the mirror. I'm avoiding me.
And sometimes
Here
that's
it
why it's
comes.
so difficult and
Here it
challenging
comes.
to take everything we know that God says about us and keep it because we still dealing with
Yeah.
those inner issues.
Right.
Yeah. When people, when you meet people, right, and you sitting with that person and you don't got to know that person, it can even be your kids or anybody, and you see something in them, right? but they so easy to see and voice their opinion about what they see in you. But they don't want you to voice their opinion about them.
Right.
You know what that is, right? That's them avoiding who they are. Because it's okay for them to see what's wrong with you.
Right.
It's okay for them to see your flaws and their issues. But that's because they're avoiding what's in them.
Right.
You know, and that's a rooted thing. And all week I've been beside myself, right? Tuesday, I thought I was gonna fall over and just get under my bed and crawl under there and just cry, don't come out, just stay there. Because ever since the trial started, this sentencing, I've been avoiding what I've been feeling. I've been avoiding me. And I made the excuse of avoiding me and what I'm feeling to save somebody else's life. That ain't fair. Because you know what happens? I keep pushing myself to the back. I keep pushing myself in the back of the line so I can avoid the issues that's in front of me. Because those issues, those are my issues. That's me. So I'd avoid the me to comfort the them. It makes sense to me. Maybe not to nobody else. Yes, ma'am.
Another viewer wants to know, what do you guys think is the first beginning parts of healing from avoiding yourself?
Confronting yourself.
Yeah. Definitely, being able to admit that there's an issue somewhere, because
You gotta admit that you're avoiding
You gotta
it.
admit, yeah, you have to admit I'm avoiding this problem because I don't want to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
And again, it's fine. We all have something. We all got a thing. I don't care how long you've been in church or what it is that you do or your profession or any of that. We all have something that we deal with, whether it's from childhood, adulthood, a relationship. It can be from anything. Life is hard. We go through a lot in life, and it gets crazy.
I go back
So
to the
it's
mirror
okay.
thing. There's a thing that they used to do with a mirror, and you have two mirrors. And on this mirror is just writing on there. You will write what you see, right? Before you pick up the other mirror. This is what I see. I see depression. I see ugliness. I see this. I see this. I see that, right? But you won't turn the mirror around to look at yourself and see what really is in front of you. Because you want to avoid confronting those issues on the back of that mirror. You'll write them on the back, but you won't write them on the front of the mirror. Because you don't want to you want to avoid it.
Speaking of avoidance, can avoidance prevent us from confronting others who avoid themselves who hurt us?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People say things to this very day. They will say something to me. But are you saying that to me, about me,
Right.
or are you saying that because you know that's about you?
Right.
And they do it. They do it all the
All the
time.
time,
Yeah, people
all
do
the
that.
time.
They do it all the time.
So, when I experienced that, see, if it's a person that I believe supposed to care about me and my best interest, then you should also care about how I feel. And if I'm expressing to an individual how I feel and they're avoiding validating that feeling, whether they agree or not, they avoid validating that feeling and they go to the blaming,
Yes.
then I have to say, okay, this is not about me, it's really about
About them.
you.
Right.
Yeah, it's about them.
And at that
They're
point,
avoiding them.
I will not entertain negativity.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's also part of healing. You know, being able to see and recognize that there's an individual that's not validating your feelings because that's how you feel. They may not be facts, but those are your feelings. and being able to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, and whatever the case may be, as long as they are not trying to dismiss your feelings.
Yeah.
Because to dismiss a feeling and not identify it, that adds to that feeling of rejection, that feeling of avoiding you by not speaking the next time an individual hurts your feelings. And you know, granted, everyone that hurts your feelings, like some people's like, okay, whatever, like, but if it's someone that it's that relationship, they should be able to acknowledge it and say, okay, my apologies, didn't mean to hurt your feelings, correct it, and let's move on.
I think a lot of people.
Let's avoid it from happening.
Yes, I think a lot of people say things to you and don't acknowledge that they're wrong or did something wrong to you because they don't want to confront what they see in themselves. And a lot of times when people say things to you maliciously, a lot of times that ain't about you. That's about them.
Yeah.
That's a mirror that they looking in and that they're avoiding, but they want to put it on somebody else. And a lot of people do that. I don't care where they standing at. They do it all the time.
All the time.
They do it all the time. They think it's okay.
Right.
Who this conversation? Thank you, Jesus. But I want to thank you both for being here with me. I thank Apostle Robert Parker. I thank Pastor Celeste Parker. I think because you matter. This topic was something for everyone.
Yeah.
We have to stop the roots from growing. They have to be snatched. They have to be cut off. And this is the way it starts. If you don't talk about it, but you water it, what's the purpose? What's the purpose? Talk about it and stop it. Because once we start to talk about it, we can plow it and pull it all the way up and get rid of it. Just like we do on weeds in our yard. Get rid of it. That's the time. But I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. If you're not busy Sunday, join us Sunday. You won't be disappointed. You'll stop avoiding you. I bet you that. You'll get to the point of to stop avoiding you. We look forward to seeing you next week at the round table. Thank you again for joining us and have a good evening. No, it's about you.
We'll be right back.